situation. It's pretty neat. When they originally purchased him, they went in a cave to get him out. It's pretty cool. Wow. Now, this is still work, right? They're still working, but it's a lot lighter work, right? So we have these big carriage wheels on the side there, nice flat streets. The carriages themselves are made out of a lighter composite material. And to add on to all that stuff, Bryan is also 2,000 pounds. Right? So at 2,000 pounds, Bryan can pull 3 to 4 times his own weight at a dead drag. Right? With these nice carriage wheels and flat streets, he can pull up to 5 times his own weight. So right now it's kind of like Bryan's walking around town with a 20-pound backpack. Right? He's just a tourist just like you?
I don't know, some must weigh a lot here.
Now, one fun fact to start us off, we have no idea where we're taking you.
What?
Yeah, Bryan's choosing, right. He will in the end. You'll see us talk about it. I had to get plenty away from all of our horses, just so you guys know. Bryan is my favorite. Every now and then I call him my son. Now, we're going to pull up here to what we call the city gate. I'm going to give them some information about the carriage, and they're going to give me a route within a zone. Right? We have such a large historical area that they split the area into 5 zones, 2 routes per zone. And we use an old 1960-70 bingo lottery machine to tell us where we're going to go.
So you don't know where we're going? You don't know.
Newer parts of Charleston. When I say new, I still mean 150 years.
Oh, okay. No one is from that.
What you got going on? Has everybody been in the market?
Yes.
Good. Perfect day to go traipsing through the market. Over 90% of the vendors here are local Charleston artists. Good man. So it's always, if you haven't been or you only went for a little while, I do recommend going back. I don't spend less than 30 minutes inside one building, and that's usually because my husband's standing out here staring at me like,
Sorry.
oh, lady.
Sorry.
Live here. Oh, what happened? Oh, no.
Can I jump?
She's picking it up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, he's wallet.
I'm sorry.
Hallelujah. Because I don't want you jumping off.
Yeah. Yes.
So you guys, just so you guys know, you're stuck with me now.
In my pocket.
If you need to get off, I will call somebody.
Button it up.
It's it's a long way down. Just to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So one other thing before we get too far, my dad said this is the perfect job for me because I just don't stop talking. So if you have any questions or see something you want to know more about, please don't hesitate to interrupt. I am happy to pause whatever I'm saying and come back to it later.
Can I ask you one question?
Of course.
How long do the horses live?
So these guys average into their 30s. They have 2 annual vet visits, so they're scheduled, ready to go. Vet comes in, checks them off, right? But we have a vet on call 365 days out of the year. Now, during those 2 vet visits, they'll determine if Bryan here is still sound to work, right? Or if he wants to work. Right now we have 2 20-year-old boys. We let them tell us when they're ready to retire.
Really?
Yeah, so like Ricky, he's so funny. He's one of my favorites. He's working today. He's a black Percheron. And Ricky's 20 years old. When he's in his stall, he looks 20 years old.
Oh.
He's like, I'm so tired. When you put him on a carriage, you're going in for a ride. Yeah, it's hilarious to me because the boy loves to work. So he's not retiring anytime soon. And 20's still fairly young, right? Living into their 30s.
Yeah.
Now the oldest draft horse on record is 52. Yeah, so we've got some time on them, so long as they've taken care of. Now right over here to your left, you guys, I just want to point out St. Philip's. At St. Philip's Anglican Church, St. Philip's is the oldest congregation on the peninsula. They originated in 1680, the very same year that the British settlers moved here. Alright, now that church location, their congregation wasn't originally there. It was down by St. Michael's, which is at the intersection of Broad and Meeting. Now, St. Philip's steeple there, it actually has a little bit of a lean to it. You might notice while you're walking around that that lean is going on. It's about 4 degrees to the left, right? Before I go too far, right here to your left, you guys, this is the Powder Magazine. Originally built in 1713. It's a museum today, originally built to store ammunition. Alright, I'm going to talk some more about the Powder Magazine. We're going to go by a location where we had another Powder Magazine that exploded. Now, St. Philip's, the reason it has that nice little lean to it, believe it or not, 1886, we had an earthquake here in Charleston. That earthquake, they estimated on today's Richter scale, would have been anywhere from a 6.9 to a 7.3. Right? The accounts from that time frame say that the streets of Charleston were rolling like the waves of the sea. Now, it hit in the dead of night, so we did lose a lot of people during this time. But what happened to St. Philip's is the back end of the church dropped down about 8 inches and created that little lean you're looking at today. It is structurally sound, so don't hesitate to go in and look at it if you want to. Now, the Powder Magazine there, if you get the opportunity, you guys might have noticed while we were going by that the Powder Magazine, the walls inside that door, they were pretty thick, if you notice. They're about 32 to 36 inches. Once we get over King Street, you're going to see another one, and then another one after that. It gets crazy. There's more churches than bars, is what they say. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
We're going to play a little King Street Stronger.
So that's why they have the Holy City beer.
Who says Holy City beer?
Right. Now, as we go across King Street, you guys, just a little forewarning, you might get a little nauseous or lightheaded. King Street is the highest point in Charleston. Right here, this is a whopping 144 inches above sea level. Come on.
Oh, these are pretty.
Yeah.
As you can see, we still use King Street as a massive merchant and trader. Right? A lot of your antiques and things this side. And then you can keep going further down. We'll actually pass through where like Louis Vuitton and things like that are. So if you're traversing down King Street and you find yourself looking at your bank account, never fret. You are just participating in a historical reenactment. Yeah. Now back to that whole Holy City thing. What's going on in the 1700s in Europe? Right, 1600s, 1700s, what's going on over there? A whole horde of religious persecution, right? So, the British, the Charlestonians at this time, they're like, why don't we offer religious freedom? This is where we got the term Holy City from. If you go out to the harbor or take a harbor cruise, and you look back at the peninsula, you're going to see steeples all the way across it, right? Our first church on this journey is going to be right here on our left, obviously, right? This is St. John's German Lutheran Church. Now, it is the first German Lutheran church in Charleston. You can always tell a German Lutheran church by the stark white walls, right, on the outside, and then your blood red doors. The bright white walls being for the purity of Christ, the blood red doors being for the blood of Christ. Right? Now, one of my favorite things about the German Lutherans is during the Civil War, they were known not to support the cause. So, all of this ironwork that you see, right? The Confederacy during the Civil War, they're traveling all along the southern states. They're telling everybody, give us your iron. When we win the war, you'll get your iron back. So, we have a lot of people who lost their iron, right? However, the German Lutherans, all this right here is the natural ironwork from the 1800s. Now, John Bachman was one of the original pastors that was at St. John's here, and he was actually one of the first people to point out that the way that they looked at the segregation and the differences in people back then was a little ludicrous, right? Because, and one of the ways he pointed this out was if I take a black horse and a white horse and I breed them, what do you get? No horse, right? No difference. Now, the Unitarian Church is one of my favorite churches here in Charleston. It is the oldest Unitarian church in the South. Do you want to know how I know that? There's a sign.
Right there. There's a sign here. I see that.
Now, this church during the Revolutionary War, she was gutted out and used for a stable by the British. Don't know what that's about. That's fine, though. Now, the other thing about the Unitarians is they don't have any staunch or strict religious beliefs, right? And the reason I say it like that, it's said that at one point they had an atheist priest, right? You believe in a higher power, therefore, right? Now, one of the things you can count on is their graveyard.
Yeah.
Right, so right here on the left, this is their graveyard. The one thing they believe in is that when you lay your loved ones to rest, they should remain at rest. Right, so when you look at the tombstones here, this isn't a neglected graveyard. This is by design. So they have a group of young ladies called the Eden Keepers that come in twice a year and trim back and clean up the graveyard, right? But other than that, they let it grow and kind of do its own thing. Now you get some palm fronds and things like that, they'll come through and pick that up. But other than that, it stays growing like this. Now, all this religious freedom talk, right?
There we go.
What is the one religion that might not have been widely accepted during this time?
Catholic.
That's right. Anybody Catholic? No? Recovering. So I tell people I'm usually the only one. Now, I like to joke around and say that we went out in the end. Mostly I say that because I'm Catholic, right? Because we have the cathedral here in Charleston. Now, does anybody know the difference between the cathedral and the church?
Yes.
The cathedral is where your bishop sits, right? So the diocese, I always say that word wrong, sorry. The diocese for the southeast here is right here in Charleston. Now you can take a look, you're going to get a pretty good view in between these two buildings. That is St. John's Cathedral. Now, one thing I always like to cover while we go this direction is the fact that there is a rule here in Charleston brought about by the Board of Architectural Review. That rule simply states, it's called the 75-year rule. It simply states that anything older than 75 years, no, we're going to stay for a second. Anything older than 75 years cannot be tampered with by the hand of man, only by the hand of God. So now we take this into consideration. There's a few things that happened in Charleston. Great Fire of 1860.